Economic development in Pakistan. Definition of economic development. According to Professor Arthur Lewis, the increase in the production of goods and services is called economic development. To lead a better life, fundamental changes are brought about in the economy, which results in economic development. In short, the movement of a backward economy towards becoming a developed economy is called economic development. Economic development in Pakistan through the decades. The economic development of Pakistan through decades is explained. The first period of economic development from 1947 to 1950. The industrial units which Pakistan had got as share after its creation were incapable of fulfilling the country's needs. The source of income of the majority was agriculture. Before the creation of Pakistan, the trade and industry was mostly controlled by non-Muslims. At the time of partition, these people migrated to India, due to which a gap was created in the field of trade and industry. To fill this gap, the majority of Muslim traders migrated from India and settled in Karachi. Karachi thus became the center of our trade and industry. In 1947, the government held an industrial conference. In this conference, it gave recommendations for the establishment of industrial units related to existing raw materials like jute, cotton, leather, etc. To promote the work of investors, Industrial Board and Industrial Financial Corporation was established, with which economic development started. The second period of economic development 1950-1960. During the Korean War from 1950 to 1952, Pakistan followed a liberal and soft trade policy which earned it a lot of foreign exchange. The war ended and there was a fall in the prices of raw materials. The government imposed restrictions on the import of goods of daily use, which greatly benefited the industries. In 1952, the government of Pakistan established a financial organization called Pakistan Industrial Development Corporation. This corporation basically invested in cement, paper, sewage, gas pipeline, shipyard, etc. In 1959-60, the share of industrial field in Pakistan's GDP was 11.9%. During this time period, large-scale industry flourished. Many factories were also established. Pakistan's first 5 years development plan was for the period from 1st April 1955 to 31 July 1960. Its volume was 1080 crore rupees. With regard to objectives, this was a very good plan, but it could not achieve all its targets. According to the rate of the development, there was an 11% increase in the national income. Per capita income could only increase 3%. The rate of national savings decreased. In the industrial field, many industries were established, such as paper, cardboard, fertilizer, chemical products, etc. The rate of increase in population was approximately 1.6% per annum. During this period, exports could not be increased. Rather, the number of imports rose. The balance of payment was greatly upset. There was a deficit of 24 crore rupees in the balance of payment in the first 4 years. The protection of agricultural crops also could not be increased much. From the above mentioned facts and figures, it can be estimated that the first 5 years plan failed in the majority of fields. Despite this fact, it cannot be denied that due to the experiences gained in this plan, a modern thought process was born. This increased the speed of economic development and helped create future developmental plans. The third period of economic development from 1960 to 1970. In 1958, after coming to power, Muhammad Ayub Khan gave severe punishments to hoarders, smugglers, and black marketers. Attention was paid to heavy machinery such as steel industry, petrochemicals, etc. After 1965, there was a downfall in the development of industry and an increase in speed of development of agriculture. In relation to economic development in Pakistan, the second 5 years plan 1960 and 1965 has a special importance. The volume of the second 5-year plans was 1900 crore rupees. In 1961, it was increased to 2300 crore rupees. Due to this plan, there was an improvement in the country's economic development. National income increased about 30%. In the industrial field, there was an increase of about 40% per annum. Exports went up by 7% annually. The agricultural field had a rise by above 15%. Employment opportunities could not be raised to the expected limits. The second 5 years development plan achieved its goals considerably and in some fields even crossed its set targets. In the economic development of Pakistan, this plan has a special importance. During 1965 to 1970, the third 5 years development plan was made. The volume of this plan was 5200 crore rupees. During the third 5 years plan, the development in the industrial field was 9%. There was a drop of 4% in the rate of investment. Agriculture development was at 4.5%. The growth of exports was at the rate of 7% per annum. The third 5 years plan could not be provided with the resources and favorable conditions required for an economic development plan. That is why this plan could not be completely successful. The fourth period of economic development from 1907 to 1980. The separation of East Pakistan from West Pakistan was a great tragedy. When in 1971 Zulfikar Ali Bhutto took power, Pakistan was surrounded by problems. In the first 7 years of this decade, economic development was disappointing. The currency devalued and the American dollar went up from 4.76% to 11%. The nationalization of oil factories, commercial banks, aeroplane companies, flour mills and cotton ginning and rice threshing factories affected the economy negatively. During the rule of General Muhammad Ziaul Haq, the country moved towards economic development. The 1978 Economic Reforms Ordinance was issued. The industrial units related to agriculture were returned to their former owners. Due to this, the production of agricultural raw material increased. Export percentage and the agricultural yield was greatly improved, but the government could not control inflation. Rs 750 crore were allocated for the fourth 5 years plan. The targets were not met for an increase in national income. Agricultural yield and increase in per capita income due to unfavorable conditions inside the country. The fourth 5 years plan could not be implemented and at last it was cancelled. The fifth period of economic development from 1918 to 1990. From 1980 to 1990, there was a record increase in the production of cotton, rice, sugar cane, and wheat. Agricultural development was at the rate of 6.2% annum. This can be called the best stage of economic development as steps were taken to restore the confidence of the private sector. Through 1982 and 1984, industrial policies created a balanced development, job opportunities and strengthened the private sector. This led to an encouraging increase in the rate of production of raw material. From 1978 and 1983, the fifth five-year plan commenced. The volume of this plan was 2102 crore rupees. In spite of unfavorable circumstances, the per annum rate of development was 6%. Industrial production increased by 9% per annum. To encourage the setting of industrial units, relaxations were also given. Inflation fell to 5% during this plan. Special attention was paid to the development of rural areas. At least 50% poverty-stricken people were provided help through the system of zakat. This was a big step towards social and economic justice. The sixth five-year plan commenced on 1st July 1983. Work was carried out quickly from 1985 to 1988 according to Prime Minister Muhammad Khan Janejow's 5-point program. There was more investment from the private sector in industries and energy-producing departments. Roads were built in villages and connected to the city markets. The deserving were helped through zakat and the system of ushur. Different steps were taken for providing employment. Special attention was paid to the development of villages, backward areas, big and small cities. More attention was paid to education and health sectors. GDP increased by 6.6% and agricultural production by 2.3%. There was an increase of 6% in exports and 6% in imports per annum. The rate of inflation was 6%. The production of electricity increased by 13.6%. After the elections held in December 1988, Mohtarama Benazir Bhutto came to power. The government lasted till 1990. During this period, the economic condition of the country was hopeful. From 1989 to 1990, the GDP increased to a rate of 5.1%. Agricultural development was expected 5.2%, but the increase was only 4% per annum. The balance of payment improved, the foreign trade deficit decreased, and investment was encouraged in the country. In April 1989, the new economic policy was announced. Again, new incentives were announced for the private sector. Setting up of new industries was made easier. Investment in new fields was made easy. The sixth period of economic development from 1990 to 2000. In 1990 and 1906, the government of Mohtarama Benazir Bhutto was dissolved. In 1993 and 1999, the government of Mian Muhammad Nawaz Sharif came to an end. General Pervez Musharraf came to power in 1999. The seventh five-year development plan 1998-1993 was put into action. During this time, the GDP increased 5% per annum. The production in agriculture remained 4.7%. Industrial production increased by the rate of 5.9%. The rate of national savings remained 12.7% per annum. 50 medical centers were established in urban areas. Literacy rate remained 36%. The 8th five-year plan commenced in 1993-1998. During this plan, many national institutions were handed over to the private sector. Due to the atomic blast in 1998, Pakistan had to face many economic sanctions. A census was carried out in 1998. GDP and agricultural sector showed an increase of 6% per annum. Private investment increased by 22.8%. Federal government tax returns were increased by 22.6%. Exports decreased by 24.9%. Literacy rate became 37.9%. National savings increased by 12.7%. After the 5 years plan, no 5 years plan was implemented in the country. No annual development plans are prepared, and accordingly measures are taken for the national development. The 7th period of economic development from 2000 from 2010. The pace of economic development in General Pervez Musharraf's 9 years government was 7%. Prime Minister Shaukat Aziz took many steps for economic development, but the common man's problems and inflation increased. In the elections of 2008, Pakistan People's Party emerged as the majority party. Syed Yusuf Raza Gilani became Prime Minister. The PP government started work to improve Pakistan's economic situation and reduce the economic problems of the people, but could not more succeed. The 8th period of economic development from 2010 to 2020. After 2010, during the People's Party era, load shedding increased and did not increase the rate of economic development. That was expected. The government increased the salaries of civil servants, helped people through the Benazir Income Support Program and the Wasila Haq Program, took many steps for women's development and protection and improvement of the condition of farmers, but the country was facing difficulties in terms of economic development. The PMLN government was formed after the 2013 elections. During the 5-year period of the Muslim League, the GDP rate was 3.7% in 2013, which rose to 5.53% in 2018. Agricultural growth rate was 2.68% in 2013 and increased to 3.8% in 2018. The pace of industrial development increased from 4.5% in 2013 to 5.8% in 2018. During this time, the burden of external debt on the country increased. After general elections in Pakistan in 2018, the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf government was formed and Imran Khan became Prime Minister. The PTA government is striving to change Pakistan's economic situation, improve social services, agricultural development to reduce water shortage and improve the living standard of the common man. It was the all story about the economic development periods in Pakistan.